Happy Wednesday, Mr. Williams here. We're going to be picking up where we left off yesterday. We talked about document A, went over this in detail, discussing Hamilton's, attacks on Jefferson and the things that he sees as negative about the purchase of this territory. But today we're going to focus on document B, and really the first part here with document B, the Rufus King to Timothy Pickering letter. As you can see here in the sources, we're talking about letters between two Federalists. Rufus King, senator from New York, Timothy Pickering, senator from Massachusetts. We know the majority of Federalists end up being in northern states, so that's not surprising. But their communication here is extremely important. We're going to go ahead and do the second part first because I really want to focus on this first part. So we're going to start actually here, which I know is kind of out of the ordinary, but bear with me here. So he says, I am disgusted with the men who now rule us. Okay, so we kind of get a hint there that he's talking about maybe some king-like, not uncommon for one party to attack the other. The coward at the head, so he's talking about Jefferson, is like a French revolutionary. While he talks about humanity, he enjoys the utter destruction of his opponents. We have too long witnessed his general wickedness, his cruel removals of faithful officers, and the substitution of corruption and immorality for honesty. So he's basically saying that everything that's happened under Jefferson's presidency has been bad. So, general wickedness, that's not something pleasant you would describe on. But with that said, we really need to focus on this first part. I hinted to you all yesterday, this might be one of the most important documents we look at all year because this is a document from 1803, but I'm just going to tell you right now, it's essentially setting the stage for why the Civil War happens 58 years before it actually does. Okay. So let's take this in parts here. Okay. According to the Constitution, Congress may admit new states, but can the president sign treaties forcing Congress to do so? Okay. So Congress, the legislative branch, is responsible for adding in any new states to the Union. It's called application of statehood. So if an area wants to become a state, they need to have 60,000 people, and they formally request admittance to the Union as a state. The Union, which you're going to see here later, refers to the United States. The states collectively is one group. Okay. So his concern is that this treaty that we signed with France to buy the territory is basically telling Congress that they have to. That's what he's accusing the president of. And again, when he says the president, we're talking about President Jefferson. According to the Louisiana Treaty, this is a treaty between the United States and France to buy the territory. The territory must be formed into states and admitted to the Union. Will Congress be allowed to set any rules for their admission? That means, are any specific rules going to be in place when, Louisiana becomes a state or when Missouri becomes a state? Okay. Since slavery is legal and exists in Louisiana, and the treaty states meaning says that we must protect the property of the inhabitants, and when we're talking about the property of the inhabitants, he's referring to slaves, won't we be forced to admit the new states as slave states? Doing so will worsen the problem of unequal representation from slave and free states. Okay. So there's an awful lot here in this part, and I'm going to kind of highlight the parts that I want to discuss, and then we're going to look at this. Okay. We have not talked about specifically the difference between slave states and free states, but it basically, and I'm going to give you a visual here to help you. Slave states are the states here in pink where slavery is legal. It is legal to own here, I guess my screen didn't work there. Hang on a second here. All right. Sorry. So I switched over from one screen to another. So this is a screen. This is a map from 1800, as you can see there with the key. Slave states in red, free states in blue, slave territories in pink, and free territories in blue. So anywhere in this red area, slavery is legal. It's legal to own slaves. Anywhere in blue, it's illegal. These are free states, okay, or free territory. What's going to happen is this, moving forward, this key here at the bottom where you see slave states, 8 in 1789, 9 in 1800, and then free states, you'll see the number growing. It is going to be extremely important for these two numbers to be the same. That's the goal. because what is mentioned in the new, back in the document here, is unequal representation of slave and free states. All right. The reason why this is such a problem is, first of all, Federalists are most often than not against slavery. They tend to be from states where slavery doesn't exist versus states that where slavery doesn't exist. So let me rephrase. Federalists tend to be against slavery. Republicans tend to be for slavery. And a lot of that has to do with their economy. So unequal representation here. Okay. What that means is that this where it says colony of Louisiana, which will soon be ours, this area right here. Okay. When this area becomes a place where we're going to have a state, according to the treaty, and knowing that slavery already exists there because of the city of New Orleans, the concern of the Federalists is that all this area is going to be slave states. They're all going to be added to slave states. And these numbers down the bottom are not going to be consistently the same. The reason why that's a problem is because we know in Congress, there is one part of Congress where there is an even number of representatives per state. It's not the House of Representatives because the number of people for each state is based on a population, and populations cannot be the same. Cannot be exactly equal. In the Senate, every state has 2 senators. So if we look down here at the bottom, 1800, we have 9 slave states, 8 free states. That means 9 times 2, we have 18 slave states. 8 times 2, 16, we have 16 free states. So right now in 1800, there would be an advantage for the slave states with those 2 extra votes. Now, why is that advantage important? Well, let's say there's a law created that is about where slavery will go out in the West. That advantage of those 2 votes from slave states gives them an advantage to benefit the institution of slavery. In other words, they could create laws that allows slavery to survive longer and go farther west and grow in size. That would be a concern to free states because they have no way to kind of balance out and fight against those laws because they have less votes. So my point is this: it is going to be extremely important moving forward that these 2 numbers here at the bottom here stay the same, slave states and free states, because we know, based on what is said right here, the worsening problem of unequal representation means that if we add all these states in this Louisiana territory as slave states, there's going to be far more slave states than free states. That's what that unequal representation means. And if there are far more slave states than free states, there's a huge advantage when voting on laws that would benefit the institution of slavery, would benefit slave owners, would benefit property, all that kind of stuff. And this is what is going to lead to war. Because as we go further west and we end up with all this territory, we're up there, it says unclaimed, all this from Spain, which eventually will be Mexico. The concern is where slavery is going to be allowed to go and where it won't be. And that's, in essence, folks, what is going to be fundamentally causing the Civil War. Now, the Civil War is not until 1861, but this document from, 1803 is telling us exactly what is going to cause the war. Exactly. Unequal representation of free states and slave states. Okay. So the importance in analyzing this document is that we're beginning to see slavery as a growing divide in this country between those who want to keep slavery and grow it in size versus those that want it to be gone or contained. Okay. And that really is going to be woven into the discussion that we have for the rest of this school year, all the way up to the Civil War and after. Because we're going to become a country where half the country allows slavery and half the country doesn't. And that can't go on forever. Okay. There is an exit ticket that I want you to work on related to this document. We will discuss the document in its entirety on Wednesday, kind of looking at the big themes of document A and document B. This is a higher level document that we look at. So if you're struggling with kind of the themes here, it's okay. I want you to do your best, answer the exit ticket questions, and we will talk more about it on Wednesday. I hope you have a great day.